Hello, my name's Sharon Sneer and I'm the author of a book called Looking for Lionel-How I Lost and Found My Mother Through Dementia. And for the next few minutes I'd like to share with you a little bit about the book and why I wrote it. You see, 14 years ago my mother began to show signs of Alzheimer's disease. At first those signs were very subtle and we ignored them. My sister, my father and I watched as she forgot where the keys were left, where she'd left the car. But it wasn't until she started to repeat herself over and over again that we really recognized that something was significantly wrong. But it took us many years to do anything about it. There still seemed to be, at that time, and perhaps even today, a sense of shame around a mental illness. And indeed that is what dementia is. We began to notice that her friends too started to drop away. They felt embarrassed by some of the behaviors that my mother was developing. For example, she loved children, especially babies. And as dementia progressed, her inhibitions fell away, and when she saw a baby in the street, she would often just run up and want to pick the baby up and kiss it because she loved it. And those social restrictions that had been so important to her in the past were no longer there, and so she didn't stop herself from doing what she wanted. Now, I started to realize that dementia held up a mirror and reflected back to all of us our own fears and insecurities. And so people did feel insecure and uncertain about how to relate to her and how to understand her behavior, and so her friends stopped coming, phoning, being present in her life. That was very interesting for me. Hurtful too, but more interesting. As a clinical psychotherapist, I'm trained to observe people's behavior, and I started to realize that what had come fairly natural to me and my sister, because we were living with dementia in our lives. My mother had this every day for the past 14 years. We were able to find ways to relate to her that other people certainly couldn't. Most of our conversations with friends are about what has happened in the past and what may happen in the future. But those kind of conversations no longer worked with my mother. She could only recognize what was happening right now. For example, you look lovely today, the sun is shining, let's make soup now. Those kind of conversations, whereas anything else simply would confuse her and she'd get lost. So I wrote this book, first of all, because dementia is a transition for everyone concerned. Whether you have a mother, a husband, a grandfather with dementia, it will change your life as it does his. And I realized that my life had changed, and I wanted to share in what ways it had changed and how I had found the ways to connect with her that were so loving and so freeing for both of us. After all, living with my mother had not been that easy. She'd been very distracted in the past with my father and her jobs in art and fashion and charity work, and we hadn't had those close moments many times in our past. But now with dementia, we were really able to connect. She was still able to remember old songs from her past, and we'd use those songs as a way of conversing. For example, I would say to her, "You are my sunshine." And she'd been an actress in her past, so she was still loving the theatrical drama of saying, "My only sunshine." And I'd say, "You make me happy." And she'd close her eyes and say, "When skies are grey." And we'd continue in that vein and have a conversation that was so fulfilling. It was saying what we needed to say because her normal way of communicating had now been lost to her. So that and many more stories are in the book Looking for Lionel, How I Lost and Found My Mother Through Dementia. Thank you.